Welcome, everyone. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of the Names by Florence Knapp, a remarkable book that explores the deep meaning behind our names, the stories they carry, and how our past and future are intertwined with them. Every name holds a story, a history, and sometimes even mystery. The Names takes us on a captivating journey to uncover the hidden truths and emotions behind those names we often take for granted. In this video, we'll break down the key themes, summarize important chapters, and share valuable life lessons from this insightful read. So, let's begin this journey together, discovering the identity beyond a name and seeing the world from a fresh perspective. The night was deep and heavy. All around, it seemed as though nature itself was furious, cloaked in darkness. The glass window rattled softly with raindrops tapping against it, and every now and then, flashes of lightning illuminated the room for a brief moment. On such a night, Cora sat quietly in a corner of their small room, cradling her newborn child, taking his first fragile breath in this restless world. Cora's eyes were fixed silently on the infant's face. His tiny hand twitched faintly, his chest rose and fell slowly. A single thought spun in her mind, over and over, the name. What would this child's name be? Who would he become in this vast, unforgiving world? How far would he walk? How much blood, earth, and memory would his name carry? Cora wished for a fresh start, a completely new identity for her son, a name that held no memories of pain, no stains of the past. But then her mind raced back to the faces, the voices, the roaring, the screams, the silent, strangling nights of terror. Her husband, the man who had wrapped her in shadows of love but built an empire of torment, who had called her his wife, yet stolen her own name and voice. Outside, the rain grew heavier, as if nature itself was signaling that something was being born, not just a body, but a new story. Cora looked again at the child's face and whispered, "Your name will be Gordon." With those words, she fell silent. Her face revealed nothing. Only tears traced down her cheeks. Was it revenge? Or was it the cruel courage of accepting fear? She did not know. Perhaps it was both. Cora knew this name would one day echo from her son's lips, and he might wonder, why this name? What would she tell him then? The truth? Or would she say it was just a name she liked? Gordon, the very name that once thundered near her ears in rage, was now tenderly given by her own lips, as if she did not erase her past, but gave it a voice, pulling memories into reality. Yet she did not know then that this name was more than just a shadow of the past. It would become a blood-stained mark of the future, a scar that would stain her child's own life. The baby had fallen asleep. The rain's roar softened. The wind's growl slowly faded. Cora understood. The storm was not just outside. It raged inside her too. That storm's name was Gordon, truly a ruthless creation of her own. As the soft light of dawn began to touch the window pane, a gentle murmur of the wind whispered outside, nature's quiet announcement of a new day. Cora rose and slowly drew back the curtain to look outside. In the corner of the small room, little Gordon was breathing quietly, his eyes closed as he passed through the fragile first days of his new life. A new life, a new hope. But Cora knew that simply giving him a name would not make everything easier. Every breath that rose from the baby's chest stirred both fear and hope within her, a hidden companion that never left. Day after day, Cora lost herself in the rhythm of Gordon's cries and sleep. In Gordon's eyes was a strange depth, a calmness that seemed unusual for such a small child. Sometimes Cora feared. Would this child truly carry the shadows of her past? Would the name Gordon free him, or would it bind him to the heavy weight of that past? The unspoken questions hidden within the name seemed to bubble inside the child, though without words he could not yet voice them. One afternoon, Cora walked with Gordon cradled in her arms through a nearby park. Around them, other children played, laughed, and tumbled noisily. But Gordon sat quietly, watching Cora's face. She thought perhaps Gordon himself understood the weight of the questions hidden inside his name, questions he could not yet express. It felt as if a deep battle was raging inside this small child. Fear, doubt, loneliness, and the search for identity. Years passed, and Gordon began to grow. Slowly, the features of his father appeared on his face. That familiar shadow became a sharp thorn in Cora's heart. A surge of fear took hold. What if her son grew up to be like that frightening man from her past? Love, fear, regret, all mingled to create a complicated cloud within her mind. Cora could sense Gordon's quiet stillness was a reflection of an inner war, a battle to confront his fears, to face his questions, to find his own identity. She knew he was not alone in this fight. She wanted to understand her son, to bring him out from the shadows. No matter how difficult the journey, Cora resolved she would never leave him alone. She would stand by his side until Gordon fully discovered who he truly was. Gordon's childhood slowly unfolded, carrying on his small shoulders the heavy weight of a name that was not just a name. It was a shadow, a mark of rebellion. The air around the house seemed to whisper that name over and over Gordon. In the eyes of adults, he saw himself as an invisible prisoner. Sometimes it was his father's stern face, sometimes his mother's tearful dreams, all mixed deeply inside his heart. Faint scars of old memories blurred on the walls of the house. As Gordon grew older, he began to understand that the story hidden behind his name was not his own, but the echo of a long-ago pain. He realized that the name could either break him or help rebuild him. At school, he often sat alone on the playground while other children played. But Gordon's mind was elsewhere. He understood that he was different. His name cast a heavy shadow over him, one that was difficult to escape. And so his first rebellion quietly started deep inside him. One day, when the teacher called out his name, Gordon couldn't say it, nor did he want to. The name felt like a painful sound rising from the depths of his throat. He longed for a new identity, for his own freedom, but the name held him tightly, binding him. This was Gordon's first silent rebellion against his own name. When he returned home, Cora saw that strange expression in her son's eyes and understood. She realized that Gordon was carrying not only the weight of a name, but also the loneliness that came with it. Holding his small hand in hers, Cora wondered how to end this rebellion, how to free her son from this cycle. She knew that beyond the name, Gordon had to build his own identity. He needed a path of his own choosing, and she decided that no matter how difficult it might be, she would stay by his side, walking as far as her feet could carry her. But Gordon did not yet know that this rebellion was not only against his name. It was the beginning of a journey to find his own soul, a journey that would one day lead him beyond the dark shadow of his old name, or teach him how to live carrying it in his heart. A strange question awakened deep inside Gordon's heart. Who am I? His name was the first identity he had been given, but he knew he needed to discover a unique self beyond that. From a young age, he wandered in search of his own place, a space where he could stand not just as Gordon, but as someone shaped by his own will and dreams. As his school days passed, an unusual curiosity blossomed within him. He loved reading books, painting pictures, and sometimes gazing at the birds flying freely outside. The birds seemed to soar without limits, unburdened by any name or history. Watching them, Gordon wondered if his life could be the same, free to fly on his own terms. Cora could see the spark of change in her son, the desire to learn, to grow, to become something new. She tried to create an environment where Gordon could nurture his dreams. Yet, the shadow of the history behind his name lingered quietly, and sometimes he lost himself in its weight. One day, Gordon secretly bought a stack of books from a large bookstore. There were books about history, poetry, and stories of people's lives. That evening, when Cora saw him reading quietly, she could hardly believe this was the same child who once had almost given up under the heavy burden of his name. Now, he was beginning to find himself. Gordon felt that although he might never fully escape the shadow of his name, he could build a new identity of his own. He learned that being different was not a reason to fear, but a source of strength. He understood that a name was more than just a word. It carried history, but history would not defeat him. In Gordon's eyes, Cora saw a hope that gave her faith they could overcome any obstacle together. No matter how heavy the name, Gordon would write his own story and forge his own identity. And Cora would be there beside him, wrapped in love throughout this journey. The years passed, and Gordon grew older, but the shadow of his name rarely left him. Whenever his name was called out at school or in society, his heart grew restless. Often, he found himself asking, "Am I just the shadow of that name? Am I anything on my own?" Inside Gordon, a strange conflict began to brew. On one side of his mind were his own dreams and hopes. On the other, the embarrassment and unknown fears that came with the history tied to his name. Sometimes, even when he wanted to follow his own path, the weight of that name seemed to hold him back. Once there was a big event at school. Gordon was given an important role. But during the event, someone mocked his name. Those words pierced his ears like poison. With tears welling up, Gordon rose from his place, feeling as if there was no bridge between that name and himself. Only distance and pain. When he returned home, Cora saw that sorrow in her son's eyes. As a mother, she understood that he was not just carrying the burden of a name, but also a deep sense of alienation from life itself. Determined to give him strength, Cora tried even harder to make him understand that a name was not everything, that the true person lived inside. Gordon felt that maybe one day he would fully know himself and break free from the shadow of his name. He knew the journey would be difficult, but he was not alone. By his side was his mother Cora, whose love was his greatest weapon. Though Gordon's heart remained heavy, in the midst of his loneliness, he found a new hope, friendship. One day at school, he met Elia, a different kind of girl, quiet, full of imagination, and hiding her own sorrows behind a smile. Elia was the kind of friend who made people feel safe enough to speak their darkest thoughts without shame. Slowly, a special bond grew between Gordon and Elia. She understood the weight behind his name and often placed a comforting hand on his shoulder, saying, "You are more than your name. You are your own new story." These words gave Gordon a strange strength. He began to realize that his own thoughts and feelings mattered far more than the name he bore. When Cora saw this friendship blossoming, she felt a quiet relief. It was as if this connection was brightening the darkness inside Gordon's heart. She understood now how much more important it was to have someone stand beside you, to trust and be trusted, than just carry a name. This new friendship encouraged Gordon to search even harder for his true identity. He no longer held back, but stepped out to find his own path. Spending time with Elia, he learned that fear must be painted with the colors of courage, and failure must become part of his story too. One night, as Gordon sat in Cora's room, Elia's words echoed in his mind. "You are exactly as you are, and your name is just one part of your story. But you are so much more than that name. You're fighting your own shadows, and that takes real bravery." Cora knew this friendship had brought a fresh spark of light into Gordon's life, and she believed that while his journey was far from over, he was no longer alone. Amid the light of friendship, a new spark awakened inside Gordon, the call of dreams. Inspired by the courage of Elia and Cora, his spirit began to reach new heights. He realized it wasn't enough to be trapped by his name or the shadows of the past. He needed a goal, a purpose of his own. One day, Gordon found an old notebook where he had once drawn pictures of his dreams as a child. Those drawings took him back to a time when he started seeing himself through a different lens. Gordon understood that he wanted his life to be more than just carrying the weight of a name. He wanted to write a new story with his own hands. At school, he threw himself into studying with renewed passion. Cora encouraged him, saying, "No matter how big or small your name is, your dreams can touch the sky." Holding on to those words, Gordon worked hard and felt a new strength growing inside him. But the path to fulfilling dreams was never easy. Old fears and doubts sometimes crept back, reminding him of his past. Yet, this time Gordon did not retreat. He knew every obstacle would only make his dream stronger. Elia was always by his side, her encouragement and friendship a safe refuge for him. Their conversations gave birth to new plans, how to bring good into their lives, how to build an identity beyond their names. Gordon's heart understood that a name might be a part of life, but it is one's dreams and deeds that truly shape identity. This realization gave him courage, and new fire shone in his eyes. Though the light of dreams continued to burn brightly in Gordon's life, his path was never smooth. The weight of his name, shadows of the past, and the harsh realities of life constantly tested his courage. Whenever his name was called out in the classroom, he sometimes felt an invisible barrier in his throat that made speaking difficult. The laughter of classmates, occasional mockery, and moments of neglect pushed him deep into the loneliness within. His family's financial situation was far from comfortable. Day after day, his mother Cora worked tirelessly to support Gordon's dreams. Gordon felt that his dreams were not just his own, but the fruits of his mother's sacrifices. This realization made him even stronger. He never wanted to give up. Cora was his unwavering support. When Gordon grew tired and sank into despair, she would place her hand gently on his shoulder and say, "You will create a special place for yourself in this world. No matter how heavy the shadow of your name is, you will build your own strength." Inspired by Cora and Elia, Gordon's heart swelled with hope, knowing that with them by his side, he would never be alone. Gordon's struggle was not only with the outside world, but also a battle against his own fears, doubts, and restlessness. Every failure, every stumble made him stronger. He learned that failure was not defeat, but an opportunity to begin anew. One day, when the exam results were announced in class, Gordon saw that he had done well. Pride lit up on his mother's face in that moment, and Gordon understood that the fruits of his hard work were finally coming. He no longer saw his name as a symbol of fear, but as a testament to his perseverance. Gordon's story of struggle was a blend of pain and immense courage. His name could not bind him. Instead, he forged his identity with his own hands, fighting anew each day and moving steadily forward. After the struggles, a new hope awakened in Gordon's life, gradually illuminating his path. Having endured difficult times, he learned that life is not just about a name or shadows of the past, but about embracing every moment as his own. This realization made his heart stronger and filled him with confidence. His success in school began to grow, and teachers started to take notice of him. But Gordon knew these were just small steps. His true battle was with his own belief. Every day, he faced new challenges, but no longer felt fear. Elias stood by his side, encouraging him, and his mother Cora was the embodiment of his strength. One day, Gordon began to think deeply about his future plans. He understood that the real victory was not just fighting against his name, but making his name meaningful. He started to dream of his career, his own family, and a life he could proudly call his own. With each step in his life, the burden of his name grew lighter. He realized that his name would never control him. Only his own willpower would. This new horizon for Gordon was the beginning of a fresh journey, a chapter where he would truly find his identity, where his name would not just be a label, but a part of the story of his life. The love and faith of Cora and Elia guided him toward this horizon. Gordon knew, whatever lies ahead, he was ready to walk his own path. Gordon's journey entered a new phase. Having overcome all obstacles and conquered the fears and doubts within himself, he began to give himself a completely new identity. No matter how long the shadow of his name was, Gordon was able to dispel that shadow with his own light. As he finished school and stepped into adulthood, his goal became clear: to take control of his life with his own hands. He had learned that a name is just a symbol. True identity is built through one's actions, thoughts, and ideals. Cora stood by Gordon's side, always encouraging him, rejoicing in each of his successes. From Elia to his friends, everyone welcomed and loved this transformation in Gordon. His heart filled with confidence and courage. He knew he would never again shrink under the shadow of his name. His name was a source of strength, a part of his identity, and the beginning of his own story. His life was now moving forward in a new direction. As a person who carried the weight of his name, created his own identity, fulfilled his dreams, and became a beacon of light for those around him. Gordon's new beginning was not just for himself, but it would stand as an example for many others like him, showing that anyone can break free from the shadow of their name, build their own identity, and shape life in their own way. Gordon's journey grew deeper and more meaningful with each passing day. No matter how long the shadow of his name stretched, he found within himself a strength that helped him overcome every obstacle. This strength was born from his own belief, his dreams, and his willpower. After finishing his education, Gordon stepped into a new chapter of life. At that moment, he realized that a name is not just a word. It is a part of his life, but not his entire identity. Building his identity meant fulfilling his dreams and establishing himself through his values. Cora and Elia were still by his side. Their love and support were Gordon's greatest sources of inspiration. He understood that his struggle was not only for himself, but also for those who had believed in him. Now, he was more confident than ever before, filled with stronger determination. Every new day became a fresh opportunity for him to prove himself and rewrite his story. The fear that once lived in Gordon's heart was gone. Instead, a new hope had arisen, that he would carve his own path and turn his dreams into reality. In this chapter, Gordon's story of struggle and triumph becomes even deeper and more inspiring, teaching us through every step about the meaning of life, determination, and hope. Gordon's journey was now illuminated by the light of a new sun. After long struggles, inner turmoil, and the shadow and pain of his name, he was moving toward fulfillment. He understood that life is an ongoing chapter where every step enriches our own story. Gordon was filled with confidence, his heart brimming with love and firm determination. He grew not only for himself, but also as a source of inspiration for those around him. His name was no longer a burden, but a proud identity, behind which lay countless struggles, dreams, and achievements. Cora and Elia continued to encourage his journey. Their love became an inseparable part of Gordon's life. Gordon knew that his life was now filled with a light that could guide the next generation. In this chapter, Gordon's life reached wholeness. He found the meaning of his name, discovered himself, and grasped the true meaning of life. A name is not just a word. He himself is the author of his life story. Through Gordon's new light of the sun, we learn how important it is to know ourselves beyond our names and to walk bravely on the path of our dreams. If you want to experience all the excitement and mystery this book has to offer, I've left a link for you in the description box below. Click it to read the complete story for yourself. And don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the Story Cafe for more amazing book journeys.